Hello and welcome, everyone. We're going to wait just a moment for a few more people to log in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining today. All right, so we'll go ahead and dive in. I know that more folks are joining us, and that's just fine as we approach the 1 o'clock hour here in Boston. My name is Charlie Dill, Associate Director of Admissions here at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Really pleased you could join us today for this information session. I'm joined by several colleagues who will be in the background throughout today's session, helping with questions that you type in and later during our active Q&A portion as well. But first, I'm going to hand it over to Carrie Noonan, our Director of Admissions.
Thanks, Charlie. Thank you all so much for being here today. On behalf of Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, I'd like to welcome you to Virtual Visit Week. We're very honored that you are considering Harvard Chan School for your graduate studies, and we're excited that you're able to join us this week. It'll be a week filled with lots of opportunities to engage and to connect with our colleagues, with current students. Please know that my colleagues and I in the admissions office are here for you. We're here as a resource to answer any questions you may have. And that's what our office is here for. Please feel free to reach out anytime, and I'll turn it back over to Charlie. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Carrie. So to give you a little agenda for today's information session, the first 30 minutes or so will be a presentation that I'll lead, walking you through the admissions process, how to apply, when to apply, and we'll do a high-level overview of our different degree programs and opportunities here at the Chan School. And then the second half will be a Q&A session where Carrie and I will answer any questions that you've had along the way. And then, like I mentioned, in the background, I have two colleagues joining us today who will type in questions or answers to your questions along the way as well. So we're really here to be a resource for you, and so glad that you could join us for today's session. During the slides, I'll be turning off my camera, and I'll see you all at the end. Thank you. So the mission of the Harvard Chan School is really about promoting health in the communities in which we live, learn, work, and play. And that manifests itself at our institution through a variety of different degree programs and areas of study. Students don't come to our school with one specific background, but students come from a variety of different educational and professional work experiences. So we like to say that you could be sitting in the classroom next to one person who is a physician on one side, a lawyer on another side, really people coming from such different variety of backgrounds, which makes it a really dynamic and interesting place to study the field of public health. Looking at our school at a glance, we have just under 1,000 students enrolled, which makes us sort of a medium-sized school of public health compared to some of our peer institutions. We have about 70 different countries represented, with about 40% of our student body for being outside the United States. Now, I'll pause here and ask a quick question to the group to really get a glimpse of where folks are joining us from today. So if you could find the chat box on your webinar side panel and type in either the country you're joining from or the city or state you're joining from, because I think it's really interesting to see where folks are coming from today. I'll go ahead and take a look. All right, so we have folks joining from Nigeria, North Carolina, New York City, Washington, D.C. area, Bangladesh, India, Nigeria, Toronto, Houston, Costa Rica, Mexico City, Chicago. Oh my goodness, thank you. I have hundreds of messages, so I won't have time to read them all. But if that demonstrates to you the folks that are joining for today's information session, it's truly reflective of the both global as well as broad US representation we have across our school and our program. So it makes it a really dynamic and exciting place to come to study the field of public health. So thank you so much, everyone, for typing in all the amazing locations you're joining from today. Thinking about where our school is located, when you think of Harvard University, you might think of the Cambridge campus, where the vast majority of the graduate schools, as well as the undergraduate programs at Harvard University is located. But the School of Public Health is situated on the Longwood Medical Campus, which is housed in the city of Boston proper. We are on the sort of left-hand side of this map, you're seeing kind of the highlighted structures. That's the School of Public Health. Immediately to the right of that, it's the Harvard School of Dental Medicine, and to the right of that's Harvard Medical School. So we're very much a medical community here on the Longwood campus, and we're also surrounded by several different hospitals, research centers, so it makes it a really fun and dynamic place to study healthcare and public health more specifically. The screenshot we're looking at is actually a virtual tour on the medical school's website, and there is a URL at the bottom of the slide here should you like to explore our Longwood campus in a little more detail. So really the objective of today's information session is to get you thinking about the different degree programs and opportunities we have at the school. And this visualization is a really great place to begin if you're new or perhaps newer to the field of public health. This chart delineates our master's and doctoral offerings and furthermore breaks it up into programs that are considered more professional or practice focused versus those that are considered more research focused. So on the master's level, on the practice side, we have the Master of Public Health, the MPH degree. This is the single largest degree program offered at the Chan School. Similarly, in the same category, we have the Master of Healthcare Management, our MHCM track, professional practice program at the master's level as well. On the research side, we have the Master of Science program, the SM. And at the doctoral level on the research side, we have the Doctor of Philosophy, the PhD, while on the professional practice side, we have the DRPH. So again, this is really to get you thinking about the different opportunities we offer at the different levels, and furthermore, whether your interests tend to lean more research focused, or if you're looking for a more professional practice-based graduate training in public health. So the school offers a variety of programs in a variety of credit amounts. So this slide, we're going to walk through the different programs we offer, tell you a little bit about how long they take to complete if pursued full-time, and furthermore detail the eligibility criteria. So starting with our Master of Science, which again is that research-based master's program, we have 3 different options for applicants to consider. We have a 1-year program, which is our 42.5 credit program. We have a 60 credit option, which is 1 1/2 years, and 80 credits, which is 2 years to complete. And the way the applicants would decide which program to apply to depends on the eligibility criteria, which often looks at prior work experience applicants bring to the table, as well as their educational background. So for the 42.5 credit program, departments are looking to see that students have earned a prior doctoral degree, and some departments will consider master's or significant professional experience in addition to the master's. But for our 60 and 80 credit options, departments are looking to see that someone's earned a prior bachelor's degree. The Master of Public Health program also offers several different options. We offer our MPH 45 credit program, which takes 1 year to complete if pursued full-time. And then we offer our MPH 65 track, which is a 1 1/2 year program if pursued full-time. And similarly, you would select the program based on eligibility criteria. So for our 1-year track, we're looking for folks to come in with a prior bachelor's degree and at least 5 years of work experience, or that someone's earned a prior graduate degree. So let's say, for example, that you already went to medical school, or you already earned a law degree, or maybe you've already earned your MBA, for example. Any type of prior graduate degree, you'd be eligible for our 45 credit program without having to have additional work experience. For the 65 credit program, we're looking for a bachelor's degree and at least 2 years of work experience. Now I'll pause here because often we do get questions from folks saying, what exactly is the school looking for when they say years of work experience? What are the types of things that count? And from a high level eligibility perspective, we're looking to see that the work experience was full-time and paid. So not necessarily an opportunity that you were engaged with while you were studying your undergraduate program, but independent of that opportunity. So in terms of the different fields students come from, really the work experience is just as diverse as what I mentioned on the prior slide. Students come from maybe a very linear, public health trajectory. Other students are making a pivot to the field of public health. So it's really important that you just sort of connect the dots for us and show us the journey you've had and how this program will ultimately help you reach your goals. And students truly draw from all sorts of different prior work experiences and backgrounds. The Master in Healthcare Management is a non-residential program for physicians and dental executives. So this is a little bit different than some of our other programs in the sense that you have to either be a physician or a dentist to be eligible for this track. But I will pause here to say that fear not, if your interests are in the field of health management, we have many options within our MPH track to study the field of health management. So this is not the one and only opportunity to study this field at our institution. And then last but not least, for the doctoral offerings, our Doctor of Public Health, which again is our practice-based doctoral program, requires students to come in having earned a prior master's degree and at least 6 years of professional work experience. The prior master's degree does not have to be a master's of public health. That is a question we get quite a bit. It is really an interdisciplinary degree, so it's attracting students from a variety of different backgrounds, different master's opportunities, and at least the 6 years of work experience. It's not advertised as a mid-career degree program in the same way that the Master in Healthcare Management is, but the admissions committee is looking very much at those 6 years of work experience to see your examples of leadership that you've had in the workforce, or your demonstration of potential for leadership in the workforce. And then we have our Doctor of Philosophy, the PhD, which is the research-based doctoral offering at the school. In terms of eligibility, the departments and programs are looking for a prior bachelor's degree, but I will say that this one program, the PhD, is very different than the rest of the programs on this slide in the fact that as a PhD applicant, you apply through the Harvard Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, which is a separate entity at Harvard University that oversees the admissions process for all the PhD programs at the university. So whether you're applying to our PhD or economics or religion or engineering or whatever the case may be, they all go through the Harvard Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. So as such, the bulk of today's presentation will be about the other programs and not so much on the PhD, only because you do not directly apply through my office, or our office, I'll say, since we do have colleagues joining us. I'll ask my colleagues if they wouldn't mind posting a link into the chat if they haven't already done so, with more information about how to get in touch with the Harvard Graduate School of Arts and Sciences if you have specific questions about the PhD. So now that I've hopefully gotten you thinking a little bit about which degree program makes sense for you as it relates to practice or research, master's or doctoral, I want to pivot to talk about our different fields of study that we offer here at the Chan School. So when you apply to our program, you don't just apply to the Master of Public Health, for example, or the Master of Science program, but you detail the specific field of study that you'd like to pursue while studying with us. So this slide details most of the research-based opportunities at the school, and you can see some departments offer more options than others. So starting at the very top, biostatistics, you can see offers our Master of Science program in all three varieties, the 1, the 1.5, and 2-year track, along with the PhD. So if you're interested in biostatistics, you have tons of great options. But if we pivot down to, say, the health data sciences track, for example, you can see that that specific field is only offered in the 1.5 year Master of Science. So it's important to take a pause to think about where your interests lie as it relates to different fields of study, but further what eligibility criteria you currently have or that you would have at the time you apply as it relates to prior education or work experience for the programs that require those different categories. So really to get you thinking. Different departments have student handbooks posted on their website. So if you're ever curious as to know the curriculum that are associated with any particular track, to understand the classes, the competencies and requirements, most of our departments do have a student handbook that you can find on the department page to detail some of those course offerings and opportunities within each track. Similarly, our MPH program offers different fields of study. So you would select a specific credit option, whether it's our 45 or 65 credit program, and further detail the field of study that you'd like to pursue. Our MPH program produces a curriculum guide each year. It's a fantastic resource that goes through each track of the program, and it gives you a sense of some of the nuances and how they're different. So if you're like me and you find a lot of different areas of public health interesting, and it's, you might find it difficult to narrow down, how would I know which track? Maybe I'm interested in, let's say, health management and health policy. The curriculum guide is a fantastic tool for comparing them to see which program and track may align most closely with your interests and goals. Because when you apply to our program, you don't have the opportunity to apply to multiple tracks. You would have to pick one track and apply to that track that aligns most closely with your interests and goals. Now, in the middle of this slide here, I have a separate section where it says online and hybrid options. And the reason we parse this out in the middle here is because the vast majority of our programs are offered on campus in a residential format here in Boston. But if you're someone who knows that they cannot travel to Boston to pursue their education, and you're looking for a hybrid like being mostly online program or an entirely online program, then I would direct you to look at the middle of the slide here at our epidemiology track, which is hybrid, or our MPH generalist program, which is 100% online. These online programs are flexible in the sense that they're part-time, completed over the course of 2 years, and they're designed for full-time working professionals. So it's great opportunity for folks that are not able to relocate to Boston or are looking for a program that's specifically designed to cater to the needs of a full-time working professional. Our residential programs can be pursued on a part-time basis, but just on a high level, most of our residential-based classes are offered during traditional business hours. So it's kind of that 8 to 5 Monday through Friday window. And so if you pursued our program part-time in a residential format, I just like to give the heads up that it's not inherently flexible in the same way. So you'd have to make sure that your other commitments, whether it's work, family, or whatever you have going on, would otherwise be all right with you stepping out during traditional business hours to pursue the program. So now I want to pivot to talk about the application process itself. So we used a centralized application for public health programs, which is called SOPHIS. It stands for Schools of Public Health Application Service. And many schools and programs use SOPHIS, but not all do. So as you're navigating the graduate admissions landscape, it's really important to check which schools use which types of applications. But SOPHIS is essentially designed to make your life easier in that you send almost all of your materials directly to SOPHIS, and then SOPHIS will then in turn send your application out to the schools and programs that you designate within their online portal. Our application deadline each year is December 1st, and historically our application opens sometime in late August of each year. So right now it's very much open, and we're accepting applications for the 2023 program start. And if you're someone that's considering maybe not applying this year, but applying in future years, the general rule of thumb is you apply about 1 year prior to when you would like to begin your program. So for example, if you're thinking you'd like to start a program in 2024, then you would apply next year in fall of 2023 through SOPHIS. So just a general timeline for as you're considering your different options. The next couple areas of this slide detail the application requirements, and I'll talk through briefly. But as I go through these, I will also request that my colleagues post a link in the chat to our How to Apply section on our website, which gives a lot more written depth on these topics as well. If you don't quite catch something I say, or if I inevitably forget to mention something. So in terms of transcripts, all of your US and English Canadian transcripts will go directly to the SOPHIS application system. And this is for degree and non-degree transcripts. So if you went to one school and you've earned one degree program, then it's pretty straightforward. That one transcript goes to SOPHIS. But if you went to multiple schools, let's say you transferred from one institution to another, let's say you also took a summer class at another school during your undergraduate career, every single transcript would need to go directly to SOPHIS, even if those credits transferred. So as you're budgeting time in the application process, I always like to encourage folks to really sit down and think about how many different documents they need to request. I think the most transcripts I've ever seen for one applicant was about 9. So if you're someone who has 9 or even more different institutions, please, please, please budget the time to make sure all your documents go to SOPHIS. If you're someone who completed a degree program outside of the US or English-speaking Canada, your transcript acquisition process looks a little bit different. So for those degree programs, we use a credentialing agency called World Education Services, which is abbreviated as WES, W-E-S. And WES is an agency that will take your US and non-English Canadian degree documents and convert it to the US system as it relates to grades earned, credit hours accomplished, and ultimately the name of your credential. And this is really important for us because as you saw on one of the earlier slides, with about 69 different countries represented, it helps our faculty who maybe are not familiar with all of those 69 countries' different grading systems and educational systems in the evaluation of your application. I will say this is only for degree programs. I'll stress that. So if you did a non-degree international experience, let's say you did a study abroad or just did a year of non-degree classes, then you do not need to send those documents to WES. Next is the statement of purpose and objectives. And this is essentially your admissions essay. The exact prompt is on our website, but on the high level, this is the journey that you've had to date as it relates to the different experiences you've had in the classroom, in the workplace, and how you feel our program will help you gain specific skills, and ultimately how those skills will help you reach your goals. So effectively where you've been, where you are now, and where you see yourself down the road. And this is really what the admissions team would argue is one of the most important parts of your application, because it connects the dots for us to tell us why you're passionate about our program and really what the skills will help you accomplish in the future. Now, since you're applying to not just a degree program, so let's say the Master of Public Health, for example, but you are also picking a track, and I'll say, for example, health management, it's important that you tailor your statement to the specific track to which you're applying, because the faculty within those fields of study will be reviewing your materials. So it's important that your essay not just speak to your interest in public health, but let's say health management, for example, are there classes that are interesting to you? Are there faculty that are doing work that you're excited about? How your different work experiences and background have lend yourself to this track in particular. So it's important you really tailor it and take some time to reflect on your different experiences. Next, we require a resume or CV to be submitted with your application. And this is really to give us a sense of how you fill your time. Those different educational opportunities, work experiences, anything you're proud of and would like to show off in your application, this is the chance to do so. Sometimes we get questions whether we prefer a resume format or a CV format, and it's really up to you. We have no specific preference, whatever is clear and is easy to follow as it relates to the different activities you've engaged in the past. Next, we'll talk about letters of recommendation. So we require a minimum of 3 letters of recommendation to be submitted with your application, but the SOFIS application system allows for you to submit up to 5 letters total. In terms of where we sit in the admissions office, we always say quality over quantity, certainly. We want you to select the people that know you the very best, that can speak to your background, your experiences, and of course, your ability to handle the rigors of our graduate curriculum. Ideally, it's nice if at least 1 letter can come from someone who's instructed you in a course, whether that's a faculty member, a TA, some type of academic background. And it's nice if at least 1 letter can come from a workplace environment, whether it's a manager, supervisor, something like that, to speak to your background in the field and furthermore how this training may help you reach your goals. However, we know so many people come to our program in public health in general from a variety of different backgrounds. Some people may have been working for many years, and they may feel that their 3 strongest letters come from workplace professionals. Conversely, someone might be a year or 2 out of their undergraduate education, and they may feel their 3 strongest letters come from faculty. In either scenario is fine, but just keep in mind that it is nice to have a balance when possible, because it helps our faculty get a well-rounded approach as they are evaluating your application. Next, let's talk about tests. So the school has made the GRE, which is the Graduate Record Examination, optional for this application cycle. And I'm going to ask my colleagues, if they haven't already, to paste a link to our test requirements page on our website. Some of our departments are accepting the GRE on an optional basis, meaning that if you choose to submit the test, they will view it. And other programs are not electing to review the GRE scores even if submitted. And that's largely our MPH program. So if you submit the GRE score, they will not look at that in consideration of your application. This currently is a year-by-year determination the school's making. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, the GRE was required for all students applying to the program, but it is optional for this year. And oftentimes students will ask us, will my application be viewed less, in a less great light if I choose not to submit the GRE? And what we say is the test is optional. So you may choose to submit it, you may not choose to submit it, totally up to you. And you're not going to be dinged if you choose not to submit the test. However, I will say that many of our programs are quantitative in nature, and with the GRE not being considered, or in some cases, students not submitting the GRE, the faculty will be looking for examples of quantitative proficiency on your transcripts. So if you have math or science classes, we'll be looking more closely at that. And if you're someone who doesn't come from a strong quantitative background, then really, we like to say be strategic in a way and see if any of your recommenders can write to your quantitative ability. Do you have a job assignment or a workload or anything like that that they can speak to those quantitative backgrounds? And that's important for our faculty, especially if you're applying to a quantitative heavy department. The other tests I'll talk about are tests of English language proficiency. So the TOEFL and IELTS are two test options that students can submit, and it's only required if you did not earn a degree instructed in English. So if your degree was instructed in English, then you do not have to submit either one of these English language proficiency tests. And more information can be found on our website. And last but not least for this slide, I like to mention the SOFIS application fee. So applying to graduate school truly is an investment of your time and of course your financial resources. The Harvard Chan School does not assess an application fee when applying to our program, but the SOFIS application service does. And so I like to say that when you're making your list of schools to apply to, definitely make a budget because there are costs that can add up when you are applying to grad school. I also like to mention this because there are opportunities to help reduce the cost of applying to grad school that are out there. So for example, SOFIS does offer a fee assistance program that applicants can look into if they're interested in requesting an application fee waiver. And I'll ask my colleagues if they also wouldn't mind, if they haven't already, posting a link to our website where we talk about the SOFIS fee assistance program. And really take your time, or I'm sorry, really take your time with the application, but also make sure that if you are requesting an application fee, that you do that sooner than later, because SOFIS historically does have a finite number of application fee waivers that can run out if you're waiting till later in November, for example, to request an application fee waiver. So next, let's talk about financial aid. So how do we pay for graduate school? Well, we have a fantastic Office of Financial Aid here at the Harvard Chan School that's really here to be a resource for you as it relates to walking you through the process, showing you different opportunities that are available. And really the way that you're considered for financial aid is by applying through the Office of Financial Aid supplemental application. So you first apply through SOFIS for admission through the admissions office as discussed on the prior slide. But after you apply, the Office of Financial Aid will reach out typically in the month of December with their supplemental application to be filled out. And by filling out this application, you're considered for school scholarships, university awards, departmental funding, sort of a one-stop shop. So I definitely encourage everyone who's interested in applying for their supplemental application. But I also like to mention that there are lots of different opportunities on the Office of Financial Aid website above and beyond the initial application. So for example, the office posts a external database of funding opportunities that our current students and alumni have used in the past to help finance their education. And by the nature of its name being external, this is really a tool you can keep in your back pocket, whether or not you decide to officially apply to our program, or if you're still considering different options into the future. So I'm sure my colleagues will post a link in the chat further if they have not already to detail more information about those external scholarships. I'll also do a plug that as a part of our virtual visit week, we do have specific sessions hosted by our Office of Financial Aid. There's a session later today hosted by the Office of Financial Aid that primarily is geared towards domestic US students. And then tomorrow morning, there will be a session that's specifically sharing resources for international applicants to our programs. And if you can't attend a specific session live during visit week, we do hope to have recordings of any major sessions posted within a week of the session occurring during virtual visit week. So fear not, if you can't attend a specific time, we will have resources available for you after. And then the last slide of my formal presentation today is to talk about careers. What do we do after we've earned a degree in public health? And it's a hard question to answer in a lot of ways because there's not one specific thing our graduates do. They go out into the world and just do as diverse careers and areas as they come in from. So people might be going into subjects such as aging population, bioterrorism, chronic illness. They could be returning to practice medicine as a physician, a nurse, an educator. So it truly does vary, but I do like to point out a resource that our Office of Career and Professional Development publishes each year, and it's a survey of graduate employment outcomes. So each year, about 6 months or so after students graduate, the Office of Career and Professional Development asks students like, hey, what are you up to? Where are you working? What's your job title? to collect that type of data. And there's a sort of visualization on their website where you can dig back through prior year's data on a sort of a Tableau platform. So you can filter by different programs to see where people from specific tracks, per se, end up as it relates to their jobs. So it's a great tool. And I like to say that if you leave this session and you're still maybe not sure about which track makes the most sense for you, the curriculum guides are certainly a great place to begin. But sometimes working backwards from some of our career data can be insightful as well, because perhaps you know the type of work you'd like to engage with or the type of company you'd like to work for, but you're not sure which program or track will help you get there. And our goal this week is to certainly talk to you, have those conversations to point you in the right direction, but some of the data on our website can be helpful as well. So with that, that is the formal part of my presentation. I'm gonna come back on camera and I'm gonna invite Director Carrie Noonan to come back on camera too, and invite my colleagues in the background to let us know what questions have come in. And Carrie Noonan and I will go through questions for the next half hour or so, and we're happy to be a resource for you. So Lizzie or Andy and my colleagues in the background, do you have any questions to kick us off?
Thank you, Charlie. Yes, it looks like somebody asked if you wouldn't mind sharing what is the class size for the MPH 45 program versus the MPH 65 program?
Sure, I'm happy to dive in with that. So in general, there's the different tracks, the 45 and the 65, but then there's different fields of study as well. And in general, I would say each field of study has anywhere from maybe 20 to 25 students per track per level. So when you add all those up, the MPH program as a whole is quite large, but each program has anywhere from maybe 20 to 25 students per year. And Carrie, I don't know if there's anything you want to add. I'll say our online programs are a little different. Those cohorts are a bit bigger. So I would say each year the generalist and the MPH EPI cohort may have around 50 or so incoming students each year. Thank you for the question.
Great. So we'll go on to the next question. Somebody asked a logistical question regarding the timeline. They say that the HSPH website says supporting documents can follow the December 1 deadline. And this applicant is particularly interested in the DRPH program. What is the last date that somebody could submit their letter of recommendation to be sure it is reviewed this application cycle?
I can take that one, Lizzie. So our deadline is December 1, and ideally we would like all application components in so the application is complete and everything is there by December 1, because we will start sending applications out to the departments no later than December 1, if not for some programs earlier than that. With that said, it is okay for some documents like a recommendation or an official transcript to arrive at SOFAST later, but some programs do start reviewing right after December 1st. So, and DRPH is one of those earlier programs. So there really is not much leeway. I would say probably by December 6th, that would be the latest I would go for a recommendation. But we do say on our website, we encourage everyone to submit by mid-November, so that the application can be received, all the required documents are received, and then we do send the applications out for review. Charlie, anything you'd like to add?
No, the only thing I would add, I guess, is just be in touch with us. If you anticipate that something will be delayed, send us a quick email, give us a quick call, because it's helpful for us to know your timeline if something's just going to be 1 or 2 days after a certain date, or if you're anticipating some other delay, because we can advise you on sort of what might make the most sense. And we're very happy to have those conversations.
And given the global nature of our audience today, I would just touch base on World Education Services evaluation. So again, ideally, it would be great if the WES evaluation were available in your application by the December 1 deadline. However, we know that's not always possible. For that reason, we have a section in the application. It's in the Documents tab, where applicants can scan and upload unofficial copies of their transcripts. And that's solely as a placeholder. It's really just holding that spot until the WES evaluation comes in. But that's to be able to accommodate not all evaluations being available by December 1. So if you have specific questions on that, I would encourage you to email our office and we can advise further.
Well, Charlie and Carrie, This is Ruth. I have a very interesting question, which I think a lot of people have a question about is, may you submit more than one application per admission cycle?
I will jump in with that. Thank you, Ruth, for the question. So you are only able to submit one application through SOFIS a year. So you would have to pick the degree program that you're considering. And for the degree programs that have areas of study, you'd have to select one of those areas of study. So for example, if you're interested in the NPH in health management, that would be your one submission for the year. So you would not be able to apply to the NPH and a different field of study on the NPH, or you wouldn't be able to apply the NPH and the Master of Science. You really have to pick one. The one exception to that is the PhD, being through the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, goes through a different admissions office at the graduate school. So if you are interested in the PhD, you could apply to the PhD and one of our programs through SOFIS. But you can only apply to one SOFIS program per year. So hopefully that makes sense, but let us know if we can provide any other clarity on that. Thank you.
Great, thank you both. Somebody asked, what is the difference between the 60 credit and 80 credit Master of Science program?
Sure, so I can take that. So the 60 credit, if we just talk about pure amount of time, the 60 credit is 1.5 years long, the 80 credit is 2 years long, and that's if the programs are done full time. Which I would say the majority of the students in those two types of programs do those programs full time. The 60 credit really is limited to the Department of Biostatistics. There is an SM 60, a Master of Science 60 credit program in biostatistics, and then the 60 credit Master of Science in Health Data Science. So that's the main piece. I guess the other thing I would mention specifically in the biostatistics area, not health data science, is that the SM80 would be more geared to somebody who would be interested in going on to research or on to possibly doing a PhD program later on, whereas the SM60 is more of an applied degree.
Thank you both. Somebody has a very interesting question about the reference as a recommendation. The person wants to know is, can that person's personal email be used if they don't have an official email address?
We get this question from time to time. When possible, we really do like to see someone's official email address used. And furthermore, sometimes we get questions about whether someone should be using letterhead and other things like that. And so when possible, we do like to see letterhead. We do like to see official email addresses, but we understand sometimes in some cases that's not possible. So if you are in a situation where you have questions about that, we'd invite you to connect with us just so we can better understand sort of the reasons behind that and be able to advise you from there. But when in doubt, reach out to us. But otherwise, we would expect to see those official mechanisms used.
Great, thank you. Somebody asked a question. For context, they're interested in applying to the MPH 45 credit program in health and social behavior, but we're wondering if they could take 2 interdisciplinary concentrations. So would you mind speaking to a little bit about interdisciplinary concentration opportunities?
Sure, I can touch on that. Could somebody post the link to that page on the website? And I'll mention that. So on the application for admission, applicants have an opportunity to express interest in interdisciplinary programs, interdisciplinary concentrations. So at this point, it's really just expressing interest upon receiving a decision from the school. And then upon deciding whether or not to matriculate, there would be additional information. And for some interdisciplinary concentrations, there's actually an application process where when the student enrolls in the fall, they would then go through the process of applying directly to that concentration. Whether or not it's possible to do 2, that's something that you would work with your faculty advisor and your program on. You really want to make sure that you're meeting all of the requirements for, your degree, and then also within that, then for the interdisciplinary concentration. So I would say that we would need to defer to the specific program that interests you. And then once you apply, if you're admitted, decide to enroll, then you would be assigned a faculty advisor, and the program and the faculty advisor would be able to counsel you.
Thank you very much for that, Kerry. There's another very interesting question. I know we're talking about full-time a lot of times when people are applying, but some people are interested in part-time. And somebody was wondering about part-time options for the Master of Science, and where in the application they would specify that they want to be part-time instead of full-time.
Thank you, Ruth. Yeah, I'll take that one. So in the application itself, there is a question that asks if you intend to study your program full-time or part-time. So you would simply select whichever option you're considering. And the general rule of thumb is that if you were to do any of our residential programs on a part-time basis, the general rule of thumb is you have double the time to complete it as you would if you were doing the full-time track. So for example, if you're doing the 2-year Master of Science program part-time, you'd have up to 4 years to complete the program. If you're doing our SM60 part-time, you'd have up to 3 years. And so that's the general rule of thumb. But I also want to stress for people that are considering our residential programs part-time, just keep in mind again that the classes are not offered on nights and weekends for that. So you just have to really make sure that your schedule can accommodate studying the residential programs part-time. Anything to add, Carrie?
I would just say that not all programs allow part-time status. So for example, Global Health and Population does not allow part-time status. I believe that when there is a limit, we note it in SOFAS. So it would state in the SOFAS application in the specific program whether or not there are any limits on part-time status.
Thank you so much for answering that question. There's another question about PhD, which often comes up, and I know you've already mentioned that they'll be applying through the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. Somebody was wondering, can they submit a letter of recommendation for a PhD candidate?
Sorry, was the question, could you read the question?
Yes.
Was it actually for somebody who's applying through SOFAS and wondering if the recommendation can be from a PhD candidate?
The question said, can I submit a letter of recommendation for a PhD candidate?
For a PhD candidate? So that would go through the GSAS application, the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences application. So that's probably a question the applicant would want to check with the specific PhD program about the process of having recommendations submitted. Just to flip it, if the question were for somebody who's applying through SOFAS, could they have a PhD candidate be one of their recommenders? We have seen that before. So like, let's say somebody's taken a class and somebody who's a PhD candidate is teaching them in their course. Sometimes that person would submit a letter of recommendation. So hopefully we answered 2 questions. Thanks.
Great, thank you both. Somebody is asking if somebody on the team could try and characterize the relationship between the larger Boston community and Harvard School of Public Health, especially when thinking about the summer internship. I assume they're referring to the practicum experience for the MPH 65 credit program.
Sure, I'll start, and Charlie, if you want to jump in, but I would also ask if Lizzie or Ruth could maybe drop into the chat the link for the field practice, and then also for the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. So between those 2 links, I think there's going to be information available for both community involvement, because with our colleagues in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, there is somebody on the team who works in community outreach involvement. We also have the field practice office, and on that site, they have information on prior field placements. So where our students in the past have worked, which might give a sense of what types of community involvement has happened in the past. So Charlie, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I would just say there's a treasure trove of great information on our website. You can also see people like photographs and understand what people's worked on for their, not just the site for their practicum office, but their specific practicum project. So there's a lot of depth there. And there's tons of great information. So I'd absolutely check our website as well.
Thank you very much for answering that question. somebody had a question about the 45 credit MPH and if that can be completed within a year.
Sure, I can jump in for that. So for our 45 credit MPH program, for the residential option, it can be completed within 1 academic year. So it's actually 9 months, 9 calendar months. So it can be completed in under 12 months, which is exciting for some people. Our online versions, the EPI and the MPH track, I'll specify EPI is the hybrid and then the generalist is the fully online. Those are only offered as part-time 2-year tracks. So you would not be able to complete the online or hybrid options in any fewer than 2 years. So depending on the person's question, hopefully that's helpful.
Great, thank you. I see a couple more logistical questions. I know Carrie and Charlie both covered this earlier. Somebody's asking if the December 1 deadline is for verified applications. Could you clarify the deadline one more time, please?
Sure, happy to jump in there. So the December 1st deadline is the date by which you need to submit your application to SOFIS. So if you hit that submit button, SOFIS assesses their application fee, and that's what needs to happen by then. SOFIS has different terms that you might hear. In verified might be one of those terms you hear and you're like, what does that mean exactly? Well, what it means is SOFIS is verifying that what you've self-reported as it relates to the prior grades you've earned matches what comes in on the official transcripts that your institutions are sending directly to SOFIS. That's called the verification process. And that does not have to occur by December 1st. So you may submit your application and the verification can follow thereafter. So hopefully hopefully that helps.
Perfect, thanks. I can jump in. I see a theme of questions from, it sounds like, students who are currently in medical school. If a student is a med student and is interested in applying to the 45 credit program, are there additional requirements and is the work experience required?
Sure, sorry. Could you repeat it? Somebody who's in medical school interested in applying.
Sure. Are there additional requirements and is the work experience required for medical school students as well?
Sure. So if somebody's in medical school, they don't need to have additional work experience. We see students who apply as MD MPH candidates. So that means they're applying during their primary clinical year so that they can come to us after their primary clinical year and do that 9 months of coursework, get their MPH degree, go back and finish up their MD. We also see students who are finishing up medical school and might come to us after medical school before residency. So we see medical students on the full spectrum from while they're in medical school until later on after they've completed residency. So there are no additional requirements. I mean, they would just have to do the entry for their current school, the data entry, just like anybody else would. But there's nothing specific. I would say the only thing is if somebody's doing it as an MD MPH student. And when I say MD MPH, that actually is not just allopathic medicine, it's also osteopathic medicine. That umbrella also covers DMD and DDS, so dental school students. And these are for US and Canadian LCME accredited medical schools, I would say. They would, if they do apply or admitted, plan to enroll, they would just need a leave of absence letter from their medical school. So that's really the only additional piece to the process. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, that answered, I think, as far as I can tell, but I will keep an eye out for any follow-up questions. Thank you.
Thank you for answering those questions. We're also getting some questions about the English proficiency examinations. Somebody wants to know if we'll accept the Duolingo as a replacement in lieu of the TOEFL and the IELTS test exams.
No, we do not. We'll accept the TOEFL or the IELTS for applicants who have specific questions about their own preparation in terms of, let's say they were educated in a university that used English as the official language of instruction in a country that doesn't have English as the official language. They should certainly email our office and we'll provide counseling. But in general, it would be the TOEFL or IELTS. We don't accept Duolingo. And we also, while I'm on this topic, we don't accept the the TOEFL, is it the personal best score, the super score? We don't accept that. It's an individual test state administration that we're looking for.
Great, thank you both. I'm seeing several questions about the MPH Generalist program. Somebody asks, what opportunities with the online MPH program would there be to come on site for 1 to 3 days to enhance the learning experience?
I'll jump in with that. So the MPH Generalist program, that particular program, is 100% online. So there's not, unfortunately, an opportunity to come to campus for classes or for other types of engagement opportunities. I would say that if someone's looking for more of a hybrid experience, they could consider our MPH EPI curriculum, which does have a 3-week residency in June of each year. If students are looking for that type of opportunity. But the Generalist, unfortunately, isn't designed in a way to accommodate on-campus participation.
Perfect, thank you. I'm seeing one other question. Somebody asked, are students able to take courses outside of their college? And I'm assuming they may be referring to, are they able to take courses outside of the School of Public Health?
Yeah, I'll jump in with that one too. So yes, short answer is yes. So with any program at the Chan School, you have your core set of classes that are associated with your degree program. So let's say the MPH program, for example, there's your core MPH classes that students in any MPH field of study would take. And then beyond that, you have your field of study classes, which are specific to that particular track that you select. And then beyond that, further, you have your elective pool that you can use to take classes in other departments at the Chan School, as well as take classes, if you so choose. You can cross-register with the other Harvard graduate schools, as well as MIT and Tufts, which are local institutions here in the Boston area. So with that, there's a ton of flexibility to take classes that are of interest to you to really craft your schedule. The school, it uses a semester system, but it sort of functionally operates like a quarter system in the sense that you have fall 1, fall 2, spring 1, and spring 2. So you have a lot of opportunities to dabble around, take different types of classes, depending on what's of interest to you. So you can always check out our course catalog. If one of my colleagues wouldn't mind posting it, if you go to my.harvard.edu, at the bottom of that page, there's a rectangle you can click on to view the university course catalog. And it's a great opportunity just to see those types of classes that you can take above and beyond the coursework offered at the Chan School. So thank you for the question.
Thank you very much. This is a question that I think a lot of people have been asking lately about the statement of purpose and the word limit that we have. This person was saying, I noted that it's a 600 word limit for the statement of purpose, but it would be possible for it to be 700 to 800 exclusive of the quantitative skill segment for the MPH students. So the person applying to the MPH, wondering if it can go up to 700, 800 exclusive, separate from the part that they have to put up the quantitative abilities.
Sure. So first, what I'll just say is that for the different programs, the statement requirements vary. So on this call, we have lots of people looking at different programs. So everybody should be familiar with what their statement of purpose and objective requirements are. That's posted on our website as well as in the SOFAS application. For the specific question about the MPH, so SOFAS allows up to 1,500 words. Our faculty are looking for 500 to 600 word statements. It's important to be concise, to be focused, to really focus in on the specific field of study for the MPH that you're planning to apply to. So when you're writing your statement, it's not just Harvard, it's not just the MPH, but really why that specific field of study. I would say to try to get it down as close to 600 as possible. While our faculty don't, cut off at a certain point, I have heard other schools, they don't read past a certain number of words. So it's helpful to remain within the guidelines, 600. If it goes over by a little bit, it's fine. I wouldn't go over by too much. And then as mentioned for the MPH programs, there is a separate section of about 200 words that would be below your statement where you are to talk about your quantitative preparation. And that's all described in the application.
Thank you both. Somebody asks, when will applicants be informed of their admissions decisions?
I'll jump in there and I'll expand it further to talk about the timeline in general. So right now our application's open, and for the vast majority of our programs, the deadline is December 1st. That's the date again that you would hit that submit button to SOFIS. And then after that time, our various departments and degree programs start reviewing your files once they're complete. That's why it's important to be complete right at the deadline as much as possible, because the review process begins after that point. Most of our departments will then read files and then return a decision. Historically, they return decisions between mid-February and mid-March. It does vary a little bit from year to year, and it does vary a little bit by program, so that there's not an official date per se that you'll hear back, but the window mid-February to mid-March is fair. And then from there, students that are admitted then have until April 15th to decide whether or not they are going to accept or decline their offer of admission to our school. So in general, that's the timeline. Many other schools and programs of public health follow generally similar timelines, and especially with that April 15th reply date for students that are admitted, that's something you'll typically see across most of our other schools and programs of public health. So hopefully that timeline's helpful.
Thank you both, Carrie and Charlie. Given that we are running out of time, I would like to ask one final question. What are some last advices or tips for our applicants that you would like to share with?
Sure. So maybe I'll go first and then Charlie can go. So I think one thing I just mentioned is about the statement being really specific as to what your interest is. So I view the statement as a bridge. It's a bridge of, where you're coming from to where you're going and how our program will help you get there. And really being focused on the program that you're interested in, but again, also being sure what the program is asking. So I know there is some PhD interest on this, on our meeting today, and it's really important to know what the PhD statement requirements are, because they may be very different from what we've talked about. And DRPH has its own statement, for example. So really doing your research, knowing what the programs are looking for in that statement, that's a very important part of the application. It is a holistic review. The faculty look at everything in the application. Public health is a quantitative discipline. On the spectrum of schools of public health, we are very heavily quantitative. So if you feel like your transcripts, your resume doesn't really show that quantitative ability, it's worth it to try to mention it in your resume or somewhere in your application that you do have quantitative training. And the spectrum of quantitative requirements really varies by program. There are some departments that are very heavily quantitative and others that aren't as quantitative, but we are a quantitatively based school. So I think that's an important piece. The last thing I would mention, actually two last things. One is the deadline. Please try to meet the deadline. The other is having conversations with your recommenders ahead of time. Make sure you have that conversation. Ask them, can they write a strong letter of recommendation for you? Give them enough time to write the letter. Provide them with a copy of your resume or CV and a draft of your statement, just so that they know what you've been up to if it's been a while since you've seen them. They know why you're interested in applying to public health. If you're applying to more than one program through SOFAST, that recommendation will be shared across all programs. So it's best that it's not specific to one school. So really preparing your recommenders and making sure that they're going to be able to write a strong letter for you. So I had a lot of tips, but that comes from having had a lot of conversations with people over time. So I'll turn it over to Charlie.
Thank you, Carrie. And I'll echo everything Carrie said. Absolutely. What I'll add is definitely talk to people and ask questions. And this week of virtual events is a great opportunity to do that. So we have different sessions, some of which have staff, some of which have students, some of which have faculty, depending on some of the department sessions later this week. But ask those questions, learn about the curriculum, because we offer a lot of programs, a lot of different nuanced fields of study, degree credit types. And it can be confusing, and we're here to help guide you to the program that makes the most sense for you based on your interests and goals, but so are our departments and programs. So I like to think that you can never talk to too many people, because it can only help you be more sure as you're writing that personal statement and as you're narrowing down which schools and programs of public health makes the most sense for you based on your interests and goals. So lots of great advice. So thank you, Carrie. But with that, recognizing we just have 1 minute left before it's 2 o'clock here in Boston, I want to first acknowledge that certainly we did not get to everyone's question today. So I really appreciate everyone's engagement. And I'm sorry that we couldn't answer each and every question. But with that, we absolutely want to stay in touch. So our admissions email address is on the screen here. Please feel free to reach out to us. We're very happy to chat with you. But we also have more informal times throughout this week as well. We're going to be posting a series of times for Zoom office hours this week. So if you have a casual question and would like to stop by, please do that. That'll be posted to our to the event landing page a little bit later today. But then of course the department sessions as well are a great place to ask those questions as it relates to nuanced curriculum questions, research our faculty are engaging with, and different things of that nature. So again, my name's Charlie, joined by Director of Admissions Carrie Noonan and my colleagues in the background, Ruth, Lizzie, and Andy. We thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us, or morning or evening, wherever it is you're located in the world. And we hope to see you at some of our future virtual visit week events later on. Signing off from Boston, take care and goodbye, everyone.